Hello and welcome to the Blue Shadow Podcast. My name is Joey,
I am Dan.
and today we are looking forward to concluding our Andor season one rewatch with the kind of the finale arc here, the last two episodes concluding the story of season one. Um, if you haven't listened to us, we do have a whole series of episodes going through the different arcs of season one. To kind of talk real quick, if you haven't listened about why we're doing this, I was not the biggest fan of Andor upon initial watch. Dan loved it, and we're kind of going back and forth discussing our thoughts as we go through upon a rewatch. I was pretty neutral, ended up at the Narkina 5 arc, the prison arc, going up a little bit, enjoying it a little more. Dan has been on cloud nine the whole time. But I want to lead off this question to you, Dan, as we've been doing at the beginning, kind of very quickly, and then we'll bookend it with, you know, all the added context of our conversation. What did you think upon rewatch of these last two episodes?
It got me excited for what's next. Everything we talked about it being a slow burn, and everything came to a head. Most of the loose threads got tied up. I really enjoyed it.
Any change over your previous impression of it?
No, I think this was my favorite arc the first time I watched it, and then really drove it home this time too.
I would say I agree with what you're saying. It's probably my favorite set of episodes, but it is the fruit of all of the previous episodes' labor for sure. Um, so that's kind of a breezy intro there. Let's dive in. We've been starting with things that might not have worked for us as much, and then going into some of the things we really liked. Anything not quite work for you here?
It was sad when Marva died. Forgot about how down you feel afterwards.
And B2 Emo just rips your heart out every time he's on screen.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think there's anything show wise that made me feel bad or I didn't necessarily like. Just the emotions got me. How about you? I know you, I don't want to say you have the more critical eye when it comes to the show. So I'm curious to think of, I will say this might be the most Joey friendly arc.
It is, and I only have really one thing to say.
Let's hear it.
Um, I again, this has been, I think this has been a comment pretty much every single arc. Cassian and what he's doing, just the structure of the show, is the least interesting part of what's happening. It's almost like he's, again, as we've said, in the backdrop of his own show,
Yeah.
which, again, everything else that's happening is fantastic. I think his mission to save Bix is important, and he clearly is, emotionally attached to Bix and everything. But I think it's in the context of everything that's happening around it, it feels small, especially because one of the things that I've said, I think from the beginning, I really love Cassian. I
Mhm.
think Diego Luna does such a great job. I liked him in Rogue One. I like him in this series. But what he's doing here just felt removed from the actual events of the story.
But I think that's been the theme of Cassian this whole time. Like you said, he's the side character in his own story. He's always on a side quest. And right now he's still doing things for himself. And I think the rescue of Bix might be the last thing that's he does because he's driven to do it, so he feels better.
Which kind of brings us to the end. Like he got everyone safe off
Mhm.
Ferrix, and now he's ready to enlist or die.
Yeah.
I think he knew Luthen wasn't going to kill him if he offered to join him.
Yeah.
So that really is my only kind of reservation per se. I
Mhm.
think it's relatively minor, and I think you are right. It is in fact a stylistic choice. Where for me, it's just not my favorite way to have the lead character put into a show. But I think again, kind of, we're gonna do a separate episode looking forward to season two. But I think you are right that maybe this will shift him into the center of the big events.
Right, because I mean, you call him the lead character, but I mean, I'd call him one of three, one of four even.
What's the show called?
Don't hit me with that.
That's all I have to
You,
say.
you of all people should know not to hit me with that when you got Mandalorian season 2.5 in Book of Boba Fett.
Boba Fett had more episodes about him. Mandalorian just took over for a little.
Mm.
I think we're gonna have to rewatch that next because Dan hates it.
I didn't hate Book of Boba Fett. I enjoyed Boba Fett. My biggest gripe about Book of Boba Fett was that the Mandalorian showed up
You ranked that pretty low in our tier list.
because the Mandalorian showed up. It's a discussion for a different day.
Okay. Listen, look at us talking about Andor and not even arguing about Andor. Wow. Um, all right. Things we liked. There's a lot to like here, so feel free. We've been kind of doing this pretty free form, but if you want to kick us off, and then maybe I'll
Or
do one after you, and then we'll just free flow.
I'll start with the low-hanging fruit set design of Ferrex.
Oh
You
my
mentioned
God.
that. So because with Andor coming out in, season two, Star Wars Instagram has been putting out Andor trivia. And one thing I saw that was really cool was the entirety of Ferrex was a set
And
except the bell tower. That was CGI'd.
and
Everything
that
else
is
was.
so uncommon.
Hmm.
You really can tell. Like you can so tell, especially when you cut to like The Mandalorian, and I think the volume is great, and they do a great job with it. But there's something with balancing that coolness with like the city that they built.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've looked at like the actual pictures of it, but it is huge. It is ginormous, the set that they
It
built.
is a sprawling compound.
Uh-huh. And you can feel the like crevices that they built in there to make it feel cramped and then open up to the larger portions.
And
Ooh.
it's cool too because the characters use that to their advantage.
Hmm.
When they're running, it just feels a little bit more realistic where they come around the corner and like kind of have to brace themselves up against a wall or something.
Very
So
cool.
I really enjoy set design and costume design for that matter.
The Imperial costumes in this show look so cool. Like the cape kind of jacket thing that the one Imperial officer was wearing. Deidre
Yeah.
is
They
like
they
Dedra, sorry.
they make them scary.
Hmm.
And then because it's the contrasting colors, the white, the black. Like when Deidre comes off with the Death Troopers, like
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Deidre, the white in the middle, the
And the
black on the
Death
side.
Troopers are awesome. And then
Yeah.
like having let me think about what I was gonna go there. Like they kind of had the Mud Trooper from Solo
Hmm.
design for the general troopers that like the not stormtroopers but the troopers that were there. And having that was normally gray and Solo. Having it all black was they really leaned into that aesthetic, and I think it worked very
Yeah.
well.
Hmm.
And the Ferrex, like balancing the rigidity and the plainness of the Empire with the colorful, not everything's uniform of the Ferrex citizens. This was really nice.
Hmm.
Um,
How about you?
okay, so this is going to kind of like contradict some of my previous complaints a little bit, but I think I can like the end product without necessarily enjoying the full ride. Um, One of the coolest things about the show, and I kind of forgot how well they did it. Like you get all these little pieces, all these little characters throughout these, admittedly, and one of the things I complained about was how disjointed some of the arcs felt. But you really feel everything coming together. Like everyone knows Cassian's going back there,
Hmm.
and you see everyone slowly assembling, and everyone gets there. I think maybe even Cyril. I could be wrong
Zero got there.
before you even see Cassian. So it's like
Hmm.
the stage is set and then Cassian shows up, which it just I thought that was so cool and so unique of a perspective of a way to structure a TV show.
It was. And then especially kind of going off of that, the one time where the Empire wants to, I don't want to say save because they didn't want to save him, save the main character from death when the rebels were there to assassinate him. Was an interesting little play where normally it would be flipped.
Yeah, it just there's a lot of dynamic social aspects to the story that are very well done, even though again, like I said, it's kind of like you see how I can like enjoy the end product while still thinking like I'm not
Yeah.
contradicting myself, am I?
No, you had to get there. You had to get to the point where you're at.
And I think it at the end of the day it was worth it, kind of. And I think like the point of the story isn't to be the rebellion; it's to show how the rebellion can be formed,
Right.
and that's what we're seeing. Let's bounce to you. Give another thing you liked.
I mean, the speech, the fight at the end was
The speech was
the
fantastic.
They, I mean, there's two or three where they just go all out, where you can be like Luthen's speech, Marva's speech. Oh, so good.
There's a quote that I didn't bring up in the prison arc, but it's kind of like the thesis statement. Um, what the heck? On Narkina 5, he basically says like, "I'd rather die trying than giving them what they want," something like that. I
Yeah.
wish I had the exact thing, but it's like it's Cassian's mission statement for his entire existence all the way through the end that we see in Rogue One. And I
Hmm.
think that kind of juxtaposed with like that's his mission where his mom's is wake up and fight. And I think like those two balancing each other out together with the tragedy, of Clem, it's like I don't know, their whole family unit, the lessons kind of scream at
Hmm.
you.
Yeah. Speaking of Clem going back to get the manifesto,
The manifesto, and then like when he was like touching Clem's funeral brick. And speaking of the funeral bricks, the way that Brasso just beat stormtroopers with
with Marva's
with
brick.
Marva's brick, I think she would have been so thrilled with that.
Yeah,
Um, Brasso, awesome. We knew this,
we did.
but the gentle, tender, caring for B2 Emo, staying at their house, to beating stormtroopers with bricks. Great, excellent,
Yeah.
excellent character.
Hmm.
I think like on a down to earth level, he's probably my favorite character in the show. Like his
Seems like a fun
emotional
dude.
core. Yeah, but
Yeah.
the cool factor does kind of take that elsewhere potentially. Another thing that I really wanted to point out that I enjoyed was Cassian, like Cassian choosing to do something. One of
Yeah.
my biggest complaints throughout, this is not going to be a contradiction or, go against what I've said previously. This is going to be like the solution to what I said is Cassian felt like he was just kind of getting pulled along or going along with the tide. Where here he's like, I'm going because I need to be there for this, and I'm going to save Bix since he learned that she was captured.
Hmm.
And I just like seeing that character do a little cool action, get to be a little spy, and then go and move through that. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah. Just knowing too, like you said in the Narkina arc, where he says like he knows he's going to die, most likely if he
I,
got caught.
yeah, I think he knows that is he's either going to succeed or that's what's going to happen,
Yeah.
or worse with whatever Dedra's planning.
Yeah.
Um,
God,
Go ahead. What you got?
we've been away from this for a little bit, talking about your girl, Mon.
Yeah, we didn't talk too much about her. I think this is one of the hidden tragedies of this show. And I forgot how like kind of gross it makes you feel like her daughter and parent are kind of into this, which is why you don't feel kind of like this being the arranged marriage.
Yeah.
It makes you feel kind of okay, but then when you watch like I was trying to like I almost rewound it 3 times to watch their faces the entire time
Hmm.
because they're on there for like 30 seconds, and Mon just looks so sad the entire time. Wow. What is her daughter's name? I'm so sorry. Lean.
Leida,
Lay. Yes, that.
Leida or Lieda.
Um, Mon.
I think it's Leda.
Leda Mothma. So anyway, Leda looks like she's like kind of excited, and then Perrin didn't really make a face, which I thought was interesting because you'd think he'd be like, "Oh my God, Chandrilan tradition,"
Hmm.
but I just was, I felt icky.
Yeah. Perrin, I let on more than he knows more than he originally let on, too.
Hmm. And one thing we didn't talk about in the last arc, I want to throw it in here. How clever of her to blame the transactions on like she knew that the driver was listening, and
Hmm.
she blamed the transactions on gambling. So clever.
Canto Bite got a reference too.
I love a sequels reference. You know that.
I do.
Sequels Legos, finally, for the
I
first time in a long time. That's
I know.
irrelevant to what we're talking about here, but there is an Andor season two set, which
I
we did
know.
talk about last time.
Last little sidebar on the Legos, I saw somebody who got all the unreleased sets, and I'm like, I know. Anyway, back to Perrin. Good for him
Boo.
for also just playing off on it too,
Uh-huh.
and wasn't like, "What are you talking about?" So,
Like I and
a weasel, but he's like a weasel with some sort of moral compass.
like
Just
he had to know, and you could tell he kind of resisted it. Like he had to know she was up to something.
yeah,
I don't know that he necessarily knows precisely what, but something.
and he knows that they're gonna go through him to get her,
Yes.
and that I don't want to say she's in too deep, but she's in pretty far,
Uh-huh. I
where
mean,
even he picked up on it.
yes. Um, I kind of wanted to pose a question to you. As we've kind of, I guess I want to talk about the conclusion, then we'll talk about some questions, and then we'll do like our overall the episodes, and then overall and our rewatch thoughts. Um, the conclusions of, I felt like the, let me gather my thoughts here. I feel like the conclusion of the finale episode was very much like hitting pause and was not a very satisfying conclusion to the season itself. Not the events of Ferric certainly were, but then it's kind of like we send these people on a ship to where we don't really know particularly where. Cyril and Dedra are locked in a closet, and Cassian's like, "You can kill me, or I'm going to be a rebel," and then it just stops. It's not bad. Like I'm not. This isn't a negative. It just to me, I was like, okay, now I actually am excited for Andor season two.
Oh my goodness, the horror.
I know. It just I like these things, and it doesn't always happen, whether it's the individual episodes or the whole seasons. I like it to feel like a complete story, and it certainly felt like a complete story, but the closure I feel like might not have been there.
Again, and I said this in the beginning. They're playing with house money. We know how Cassian's story ends, so they can take some liberties in the middle. Like, for example, we know that he has to come back. Therefore, they don't have to tie up the story
It's
in a
true,
super tight knot.
especially given that they were doing, and who knows how when that was exactly nailed down, either five, either four more or one more season where they
Yeah,
knew they were going to come back, which is not a guarantee in today's streaming landscape.
right. And even if they didn't, hypothetically, it's still an okay ending, knowing that what we know about him in Rogue One.
It's true. I mean, and you can very easily, much like we said about the Acolyte, like it would be lovely to have more, but you can connect the dots
There,
between
yeah.
the end of season one and Rogue One. I think we're going to have a far more satisfying roll into Rogue One,
Oh yeah.
which we're going to do a business meeting on air, but I think after season, so we're going to cover season two, and I think after we do season two, we should do Rogue One rewatch because it was
Chris
not my
Rock.
favorite movie. I think we should roll into it.
Yeah.
It'd be fitting. Um,
Fitting.
so that's kind of all I really had to say. Likes and overall about the episode. Questions for you. Um, one more thing actually. Do you like Luthen? I feel like I've asked you this like five different times, but
I
I feel
mean,
like you get a
do I
different
like the
shade every time.
character? Do I like the character? Yes. Do I like him as a person? Not really.
I was explaining to my wife like the deal kind of because like I said she was watching a few minutes of it with me and I was like he's like Saw Gerrera but you don't know whether he's crazier than Saw Gerrera or not.
Right.
And I think that's the question and
He's
I
like
think we'll
Saw
learn
Gerrera. He's like Saw Gerrera with money and connections.
and like the ability to behave like a normal human at least for show.
Yeah.
Saw Gerrera's like living in a damp cave and yelling awfully.
Killing
I
killing clones.
don't want to hashtag tech lives. Um anyway, I now want to roll into like this arc, and then we'll do the whole series. Where did this arc land for you? You know, we did the initial. You said you liked it. After the contextualization of our conversation, did you feel like You want to articulate any more, or just like you loved it then, you loved it now, slam dunk?
I think I like it more now because I understood more going into it and I could pick up on a little bit more of the nuance.
Hmm.
Um, Knowing that what's coming and I also know what to look for. So I think it probably is my favorite arc. If I had to rank my arcs, I would
Oh, hang on, we'll save that for the end part.
oh, well, fine.
I did not communicate that with Dan.
It's okay. Um, I enjoyed it. I think it grew on me. It was already pretty high and then it ended up higher.
I feel precisely the same. It was probably among my favorite part. I last episode had talked about how One Way Out really did it for me, and I think this just barely by a hair. I really enjoyed it maybe a little more than that. It was that bringing everything together that was very sad. And like I said, the conclusion itself wasn't unsatisfying. The actual conclusion to the story of this season was very satisfying.
Hmm.
What they did with the characters after that, the resolution was kind of like not my favorite, but that that aside, I think this arc was, and again, mini arc, 2 episodes, was very, very, very strong.
Yeah.
You ready to roll into our thoughts on the series itself?
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to go first or I'll go first because mine's probably be a little bit less time.
How I and so you can give your initial thoughts, like what you were gonna say, and then I kind of like recap your thoughts on the arcs and where you just very quickly, like
Oh,
the introductory arc, the same, above or below, kind of. All
okay.
right.
Overall, really enjoyed the series. Again, I enjoyed it more this time than I did the first time. Picked up on a lot more, and I focused on different characters this time. Like I focused on Dedra a lot. She was pretty nuanced, not in a good way.
You kind of
Not a
evil.
vision, not a visionary. Absolutely horrific.
If you're a fan of the Empire, she was great.
Yeah, no, she was a phenomenal villain, and I think just briefly looking ahead to season two, she's going to be a very formidable villain who is now personally wronged
And will be, I believe, in competition with Krennic, maybe kind of like
in competition with Krennic and has now the evidence to back up that she was right. So she'll probably have more resources.
I think that it'll make for a really interesting, certainly.
And if she wears a cape just to spite him.
Oh my God. Shiny white. It's hers is pressed nicer. Anyway, so that's your thoughts. Just kind of doing the arcs. Tell us your thoughts on them, and then you can do your ranking after that, and then I'll do mine.
I mean, again, I enjoyed all the arcs. Uh, just kind of jumping right into it. I think they step in the order that they were shown. They get better as the weeks go on.
Hmm, interesting.
Oh, you didn't like that? Oh, I know you don't. Aldani's last
We'll
one.
get there. We'll get there. Uh, so you,
Everything very, very much so chronological and builds.
mhm.
And I like that aspect of it. Like you need to watch, not don't necessarily need to watch Arc One to like Arc Two, but it helps. So I again, and because we're getting resolutions in each new arc, I think I liked it more, if that makes sense.
So you ended up liking each arc, and obviously your ranking would be in like reverse order,
Right.
and then you like them all a little bit more than you did upon first watch.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So for me, I went into this rewatch a little. Dan calls me a negative Nelly about Andor. To again reiterate, because it's been a few weeks, I Andor came out around a very busy time in my life, in the midst of grad school. Had a lot of wedding planning going on. It actually came out like I think the weekend of my wedding, if not very close to it. So I was very busy. I didn't love Rogue One. I wasn't in the best mindset. I didn't even watch it all upon. I watched the first 2 episodes or so, and
Mhm.
then I waited a few weeks. It might have even all been out. I think we talked about this. So I went in. I spent from 2022 to 2025, and bore and whining. Overall, I think I'm very glad we did this first and foremost
Mhm.
because it did make me like it more and appreciate it more for what it is. So I still have those issues I think the consistent issues with the focusing on the characters, the stories feeling a little disjointed, like that doesn't go away. But I
Right.
think the good minimizes those. Like the good makes that smaller and less of a concern. Like I found myself wanting to watch it, particularly going into like the last episode of every arc. I was like, "Ooh, I'll hit next," or "I can't wait to go and watch Andor." I think I hope in season two that imbalance, like I hope every episode I want to watch, not like I start a new arc and it's like, oh God, I'm starting from scratch. And the second episode's kind of boring, and then the third episode's like, oh,
See, and that's the part where, as somebody who's a fan, I don't know because we are getting 4 arcs over a period of however many years.
I think it'll
I
be
feel
a
like
lot harder to connect.
I feel like we're going to have to, unfortunately, start from scratch.
I know. It's all right. I'm gonna be more open-minded. It's gonna be good. Um,
Trust their vision.
and again, while their vision might not have been my favorite thing, I think their vision is strong. Their vision is good. Their execution of the vision is great. Um, for me, my favorite arc would go the last arc, Narkina 5, the intro, and then way down more, and then Aldani.
Mm,
I did not like Aldani. And like I honestly think that might have been my roadblock almost. Like I was so jaded about it that it made me not even want to enjoy the other stuff, which the Narkina 5 arc was fantastic. And then the conclusion is obviously super good. So I I think Aldani got in my way a lot.
you don't want the Aldani Lego.
No. I did think the eye was gorgeous. The,
Hmm.
the, the a lot again visually the show's tens all around. It's the most movie looking Star Wars show that we've gotten.
Right.
The could do with more aliens, absolutely. Could do with a larger connection to the Star Wars universe, beyond anything relating to Mothma, absolutely. All the Mothma stuff is very integrated into Star Wars. I think, and I think we're gonna get there. I think again, as you say, any problem I have, you're like, that's the point.
Ah, no, I'm done with that.
No, I mean you are correct though. Like Cassian is off camera right now, or to the side, and I think we'll slowly see him come more and more into the center to the point where he's stealing the Death Star planes.
Hmm.
So I've grown to appreciate it. I really liked it. And I'm kind of looking at the Disney Plus shows, and I still would say it's towards the bottom for me, just because it's like not my style of show per
Yeah.
se.
No
But
force.
no force. But I really did like it. Like I think it now isn't this gaping chasm between whatever my one above it is and it's
Mm,
I think it's in contention with some, like I don't know, like I would say like production wise and like story, it's probably better than Kenobi.
probably.
Like I like Kenobi better because of my attachment to the character. I think the story itself is good. Maybe the
Mm,
execution not quite as much, but like you know what I mean? Like it's hard. I think now it's a contender rather than
yeah.
something I just kind of
Yeah. And
yeah. Go ahead.
I just going back to Kenobi, they had more wiggle room to do stuff with. There wasn't this, hey, there's a hermit, has to survive. We know he meets Darth Maul at some point, and that's it.
Hmm.
Where here you could just do a lot more because he is a
Introduce a
new
whole
character.
swath of characters. Like
Yeah.
I I,
I
I
mean,
think they used it very well.
I don't know about you. I did not watch this expecting a cameo, where I kind of do in other Star Wars shows. I expect that one person to show up to connect it to a bigger story almost.
I would like that. I think it would do for someone like me. I think it would do me a favor if in season two Harrison Duel is on Yavin.
Mhm.
I think that would do wonders for me. But I don't think it needs it. I think this highlights that you don't need it to be good. And I think sometimes in some properties, I'm not even saying anything. I think the only egregious cameo is C3PO and R2 and Rogue One. That's the only Star Wars cameo that in my eyes is like, I liked it, but you don't need it. You want to say Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, don't you?
No, no.
Like, I don't think any of them are leaned on as a crutch. I think they're there because it makes sense for the characters to be there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So that my point is, this is showing that it can be done without pulling in Darth Vader again.
Right.
Now, if there's a crazy Darth Vader hallway scene at the end of Andor season two, like the one we see in Rogue One, I'd be happy. But
I mean, maybe we'll get Palpatine.
oh god, that
I
would be
guess.
kind of cool.
Well, let's hold off on.
Okay, yeah. So we're gonna do a season two episode, like you said. I want to end this episode by asking you, Dan. So Dan has been aggressive with making fun of me for me not liking Andor for a good while. I want to ask your thoughts on my performance over the last few weeks as we've been
Your
rewatching
performance.
season one.
Now, I'm glad you went into it with an open mind.
I tried, I really
I
did.
think you even kind of admitted you went into it not liking it, not expecting to like it the first time, and
Mhm.
then when you didn't like it, you'd be like, "Ah, knew I wouldn't like this."
And I think Aldani was what I think Aldani was like, see, I was right, I'm done.
Just casually talking about a sweet heist.
Characters we don't even care about. Anyway.
It's okay.
So my performance though. Go ahead.
You did well. You were a trooper. You sat through it.
Are you happy with my how I've grown to appreciate it, I guess is kind of my
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to sound like saying you needed to like it.
I know.
I'm I appreciate the fact that you've again went into it with an open mind and appreciate it for what it was and not still coming out of it saying there needed to be force.
No, there does not need to be force, but I think I hope hopefully I've been able to articulate that my issues aren't just I would prefer to see a lightsaber.
Yes, yes.
That
You
there
had
are some structural things that for me just TV show in general, and then some stuff that as a Star Wars, I think it does, like I said, it kind of lacks some of those elements of traditional Star Wars, but I think that's okay.
yeah.
The Force Center podcast always talks about Star Wars as a buffet, and maybe you don't like that's not your favorite dish.
Hmm.
Maybe you don't rewatch it as much as you watch Mandalorian or something, but that doesn't mean it's a bad dish. This might not be for you. And again, I think this ends. I would be happy to watch this again.
Right. And you could theoretically cut the Aldani arc and this would make total sense.
Only thing would be who's Vel.
Yeah.
I think upon a rewatch, I might actually because it yeah. Anyway, that's all. That's all I got.
You can get away with knowing that he was part of this heist and he was on the run.
Yeah. So anything else to add for this episode?
No, are you still gonna call it Andor?
There are some slower moments, but I think opening my mind, it's not boring. It's not
I say
boring.
it ticks a lot of the Joey boxes, whether you care to admit it or not.
This it does, but then when it doesn't, it really doesn't.
That's
It's like
fair.
it's either ticking Joey's boxes or not even anywhere near it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like that, I
No, no.
think this juxtaposition might be part of my
Well,
reservation.
it's because you got your droid,
Uh,
but
I
you didn't
love a
get your
cute droid.
but you didn't get your creature.
I did not get a creature or an alien. There and there
No.
there were more aliens kind of in the background than I think people give it credit for.
And I think they did it in such a way where you didn't need aliens.
But I think it
For
helps to make you feel like you're in the galaxy.
yes. I think especially though for arcs 2 and 3, could not have had aliens in there.
I think you could have had aliens in three because the Empire hates aliens, so they could
But
have been imprisoned.
you missed the part where they were segregated based on their homeworld.
What?
When they were getting sent to the prisons, they were separated based on their homeworld.
Interesting.
So if you noticed, everybody in Arcana 5 was, quote, human.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah, go back and rewatch that little detail because that's why they said, "Where are you from?" He said it. Then they said, "Narkina 5."
Alrighty then. Well, how about that?
Yeah.
On that note, I think we can probably wrap up our Ender season one rewatch. Again, I really enjoyed it. I think this was well worth doing. For your reference in the future, we're planning on doing this for Rogue One, which
Mhm.
again was not my favorite. And then while Dan likes the sequels a lot more than I disliked Andor, I think as a huge sequels fan, I want to do a breakdown of each sequel movie with Dan and tell him why I love them so much.
Yes, I feel like I'll be getting a PowerPoint.
I would make a PowerPoint. I'm not above that.
It's like, and in this frame,
I there is so much. We'll get
we
hate.
will,
We'll
yeah,
get hate comments, but I love the sequels. I think they need to be appreciated for what they are.
just like
Much
Andor.
just like Andor, just like every single Star Wars that has ever Star Wars.
Yes.
All right. On that note, anything else to add, Daniel?
No, sir.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed our Andor rewatch. If you've watched it along with us, let us know how your journey has gone, kind of that wrap up segment that we did. We'd be happy to hear from you, especially if you're, someone like me who didn't quite love it and is trying to get with the program to be ready for season two. And also keep an eye out. Our next episode that we're going to release is going to be our, hopes, thoughts, dreams for season two. And yeah, so with that, we thank you so much for listening. Uh, if you're willing, please consider giving us a like, subscription, review, comment on YouTube or the podcast platform of your choice. Consider giving us a follow on Twitter or X at Blue Shadow Pod or on Instagram at Blue Shadow Podcast. And with that, we thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
See you next time. Thank you.